Hey, I'm Katie, occupational therapist, health and wellness coach, and a professional deep breather who doesn't always practice what she preaches. Welcome to the Mom Refill. You fill everyone else's cup, your kids, your partners, your bosses. Now it's time to fill yours. Each episode, we're digging into the real science between stress, burnout, and nervous system regulation, made for working moms who don't have an extra hour, just a few minutes, maybe. Let's get you refilled. I'm recording this episode in July, knowing that back to school season is right around the corner. By the time you hear this, it will be August. All summer, you've been focused on summer activities, vacation, managing inconsistent childcare, and the school supplies probably feel like they're on the bottom of the to-do list right now, and you're already exhausted. You know the next few weeks will be even more exhausting. We've all been there. Back to school season is stressful and overwhelming, and it's not because you're disorganized or haven't figured out the logistics of everything. It's because your nervous system is dysregulated. In today's podcast, I'm going to answer the top 5 back-to-school questions I hear from moms. These questions all come back to the mental load and nervous system regulation that moms are required to do at times of transition, like back-to-school season. We all know that this season of back-to-school, stress hits us moms harder than dads. And it's not because moms are worse at managing it, right? It's because we as moms carry more of the invisible workload or coordination. And this invisible workload shows up as late night Amazon ordering. That was me a few nights ago. Remembering to register for something on your commute to work, trying to keep track of permission slips while in a meeting. Each time one of these important time-sensitive tasks comes up, and we don't have the capacity to manage it in the moment, our stress response gets activated. Now, our body's stress response is meant to keep us safe from threats. And when we think about early human evolution, this stress response was keeping us safe from predators, fires, and other things that could quickly kill us. And now in our modern world, our stress response is the same as it was when we were early humans, and it is trying to keep us safe from threats like an urgent email, or the 5 voicemails you need to respond to, or the kids demanding snacks when you're on the phone. These threats are not going to kill us, but our brain doesn't know the difference and activates the same stress response it would as if an animal was attacking you. So today, as we talk about these top questions and how to prepare for back to school, we'll also talk about how to turn off the stress response and regulate our nervous systems so we don't get into a state of chronic dysregulation, which then leads to burnout. What we're all trying to prevent, right, is that burnout, which we've probably all felt at some point. So let's talk about a couple questions that have come up that I've heard from moms or I've asked myself. The first one is, how do I stop being the only one who remembers everything, right? I think we can all feel this way at some point in our lives. I knew as a new mom and early on in my momhood, I felt like I had to hold everything, all the reminders, all of the to-do lists for the kids. And my husband is not very good at remembering things. So it was a big stressor early on in our parenthood journey. And what I want to say is, like, this is not a to-do list problem. It's really an offloading problem, right? If you have to keep everything in your brain, all of these, tasks that need to get done, all the things you have to remember for your kids, and it's just sitting in your brain, like that is just a constant stressor in the back of your mind that you're trying to hold on to. So some things that could help with offloading some of the things you're trying to remember. Number 1 can be like externalize your memory, right? So have a shared calendar with you, your partner, anybody who else helps in the caring of your children, and have that shared calendar be kind of a second brain, right? So like all the dates of the important things are in there. All the appointments are in there. Everybody can see it. Everyone knows what's coming up in the week. It's not that you have to communicate it differently or better. It's just another way to make sure that everybody's on the same page. I think that this can be really helpful in making sure that everybody knows what's going on. Like, I'll send calendar invites to my husband for things he doesn't need to deal with, but at least he knows that's what's happening that day. And the same thing for me. If he has something that's going on that I need to be aware of, but I don't need to do anything for, it's still a calendar invite so I can see it in my calendar. So that can be very helpful. And even if it's not a shared calendar, it could be a shared to-do list. It could be, on the fridge, a schedule of what's going on. It could be a shared note in your phone where you're keeping track of I think unfortunately the holidays are going to come before we know it. And I'm starting to think about, okay, how can I take some of that stress off my plate? How can I share some of the workload of the holidays with my husband? And so it could be a shared to-do list of here are the presents we need to buy. Here are what I'm thinking. As ideas pop up, I can put it on there and I'm not trying to hold on to it. So you don't need to be the one who remembers everything, but sometimes it takes us putting it in an external device so that everyone's on the same page. All right, question number 2. How do I balance work deadlines with drop-off chaos? Oh my goodness, yes, this can be so challenging. And pickups. I don't know about you, but my kids get home from school so early and I'm still working until 5. So it can be very hard to have those transitions happen during the workday. So the big thing here is we're dealing with 2 different areas of our life, right? We're dealing with parenthood and getting the kids transitioned to the next part of their day. And then we also need to transition ourselves to the next part of our day. And so it's really hard when we just drive from one thing to the next without some sort of reframe or transition for our nervous system, right? If we're in go, go, go mode all morning, trying to get the kids out the door, get their bags packed, everything, get everyone to the bus on time, and then we go right into our first meeting of the day, or we go right into a to-do list from work, our brain is like, whoa, what is happening? We're going from one stressor to the next and we never really get a break. So one thing that can be really helpful is giving yourself, just 90 seconds, a minute and a half of some sort of reset between the 2 things you're transitioning from, right? So this could be sitting in your car, doing some deep breathing, or it could be walking up and down your driveway, once or twice to kind of reset. It could be doing a 5 senses reset where you tap into all 5 senses and kind of be aware of what's going on in the present moment. Gets us out of our head, gets our nervous system calmed down before we move into the next thing. I also highly recommend this for the end of the day when you're transitioning from work back into mom mode, or you're transitioning from getting the kids off the bus to back to work to then to the evening activities, right? There's a lot of transitions happening. Do some sort of reset there. So maybe you take a few minutes and do some stretches or some deep breathing, or maybe you put on, a nice calming 5-minute meditation, just something to kind of transition. I like to do this in my car before I get out of the car and into the house. Just take some deep breaths or kind of reflect on the day, give myself a little moment to pause before I walk in the door into the chaos of the next stage of my day. So transitions equal nervous system resets. That's what we need. Okay. Number 3, how do I help my kid with back to school nerves and make the transition back smoother? Yes, I have some anxious kiddos, and transitions are always challenging. Even going back to school they've been in, even when they kind of know what's going to happen, it's really important to help them calm their nervous system, but you also have to regulate yourself. So this is co-regulation. So it starts with you having a regulated nervous system. So we cannot be hyped up and stressed and anxious and super overwhelmed and then go and try and calm our own kid down. It's not going to work. Our kids pick up on that energy very easily. So we need to first calm our own nervous system. So that could be, again, deep breathing. I always go back to deep breathing because it's quick and it is easy to do anywhere. Or it could be movement. So maybe, shaking out your body or taking a walk, just kind of letting your nervous system calm down, and then opening the conversation with your kid about this transition, right? Back to school can be overwhelming. I remember being overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed sometimes too when I have to transition back to work after vacation, or, relate it to your own stories. and then talk them through what's going to happen on the first day of school. I think also any activities you can do to help them meet the kids or the teacher before school starts. Honestly, it helps myself to kind of know what's going to happen because I get nervous with transitions, wonder where my kid gets it from, right? And then also teach your kids some regulation strategies, teach them a breathing technique. Teach them to give themselves a hug or squeezes. For one of my daughters, we got her a squishy ball that she could squeeze in her pocket when she would get nervous or anxious or angry. And it just gave her a physical way to get that emotion out. You could also write a note in their lunchbox or maybe give them a little bracelet that you have one, they have one. I know I've seen those out there. For my one daughter, I would draw a little heart on her wrist and I had one on my wrist and we would touch it together and say, have a great day, and then transition off. So think about something fun, to do to help with that transition. And then also maybe something fun to look forward to when they get home from that first day of school. We're going to go get ice cream together, or we're going to do something exciting, or we're going to do a craft project you've been looking forward to, something to get them, thinking positive through their day. And then the other thing about this transition back to school, especially from summer to the fall, mornings can be challenging. So if your kid is on a different wake up schedule than they are during the school year, our buses come super early here. So I have to get my kids up pretty early in the morning. And they're definitely not ready for that right now. We have been sleeping in. I've been enjoying it myself too, a little sleep in every morning. But we're going to have to get back to waking up earlier. And so I recommend starting that at least a week before school starts, that transition of slowly getting up earlier, getting ready for the day earlier to just get their bodies prepared for that. All right. So question number 4, how can I prevent feeling completely overwhelmed and exhausted when September comes? Yes. The change from summer, which can be a lot, right? I don't know. My summer was busier than I ever expected it to be, but summer just has a different feel, right? It's more laid back, less pressure in some ways. And to go from that to kind of a crazy compression of our schedules, adding sports in there, other extracurricular activities on top of a new school schedule, and all of the to-dos that come with back to school, like the lunches and the permission slips and all the forms that need to be filled out. And there's just so many things that need to get done. It is hard. It is normal for this to feel hard. So I want to start there. It is okay for that to feel overwhelming. But the thing that will help get through the overwhelm and prevent the exhaustion is taking care of ourselves. It is so, so important that we take time to get enough rest, to eat the healthy foods that we know we need, to exercise, to breathe. All those things are important. And I know it can feel even more overwhelming to try and fit that in to our busy day, but even taking a few minutes to move your body at the end of your day, reset your nervous system is going to prevent the buildup of the overwhelm and the stress and get to that point where you just feel completely burnt out and it's only September 15th. Okay. So it's really important that you're taking care of yourself. And there are lots of ways to do that without it taking a lot of time. We're going to get into that in future episodes. But I just want you to know, you don't have to spend an hour at the gym every day to take care of yourself. That would be great, right? Ideally, but we don't always have that. So I have some resources that we will go through to help you kind of take small steps to regulate and take care of yourself that don't take hours a day. You could start with that 90-second reset that we kind of talked about before when we are going through a transition. Going for a walk, taking deep breaths, checking in with your senses. Any of those are great ways to kind of reset in the day and take care of you. All right. Last question, and I like this for the logistics of it. How do I make morning transitions easier? So morning transitions can be really challenging depending on how your kids do in the morning and just all the things that have to get done in the morning, right? Make sure the backpack's prepped, the lunches are done, everybody has their clothes on, everybody has all the things to get out the door, right? Lots of things. So thinking about what could you prep ahead of time? So can you make some of the lunch the night before? Maybe not all of it, right? So sometimes my kids like sandwiches for lunches. So I'll make 1 or 2 sandwiches, the night before, put them in the fridge in the containers, and then I just have to add the veggies, the dip to it and make it easy to get them out the door. It could be setting out outfits for the week. I know a family who did this for a long time, and I thought, oh, this is really cool. They Sunday would lay out the outfits for the week, and then it's easier for the kids just grab the outfit and throw it on, and they're ready to get out the door. My kids are not super picky about what they wear in the morning, and honestly, my laundry doesn't usually make it off of the dining room table into the drawers and closets all the time. So it's really easy for them to come downstairs, grab clean laundry that's already folded and sorted, but they can just grab what they need and put it on. So whatever works for you, whether that's like setting out outfits or just having the clean laundry easily accessible, can make that morning routine easier. Maybe the other thing you could do is making a station by the door that you leave out the house. So in that station, there are their shoes, their backpack, their jackets, like whatever they need, their water bottles, their lunch boxes, and they're ready to like pick it up and run out the door. That can be very helpful. I have just started adding to my kids' chores to have them pack their bags in the morning. And they have taken that very seriously, and it takes one thing off my plate. So also like offloading some of the responsibility to your kids when they are old enough and ready for that. Mine are 7 and almost 11. So they're able to take on a little more responsibility now. All right. We also need to talk about breakfast, right? So having easy breakfasts that are ready to grab and go can be helpful. So thinking about what are things like my kids love a warm breakfast, but I don't always have time to make a warm breakfast for them. So I will prep protein pancakes early in the week and they can eat those for the week, and I'll have fruit cut up and they can just pick their fruit, take their protein pancake and eat. Or if they love cereal, then like make themselves a bowl of cereal, yogurt packets, think about like what's easy for them to grab and eat without a lot of prep in the morning. And then lastly, think about like what's a morning routine that will help you start the day more regulated. So personally, I haven't been doing this a lot lately because it's summer, but I do like to get up before my kids in the morning, not a ton early, maybe 20 minutes early, to give myself a chance to kind of get the day started, take care of myself, like make myself a smoothie. Maybe I'll start packing the lunches and just have like one thing done before they wake up so I don't feel rushed. I also sometimes have to get out the door around the same time as them or earlier. So I need to get up earlier to make sure that my stuff's done and I can get out the door without feeling super stressed and overwhelmed. So I'm not saying you have to get up at 5 a.m. and do everything before they get up, but maybe getting up a little bit early or after they get on the bus, is there something you can do in your morning that makes you feel regulated, that makes you feel good to start your day? All right. So I hope these answers gave you some immediate takeaways to make your back to school season smoother. The main takeaway is you don't need to overhaul your life. Simple adjustments to get ahead of the chaos is step 1. The second and more important step is to find ways to regulate your nervous system to prevent the stress and overwhelm from taking over your body. Stress is always going to be there, right? Regardless of the work we do to remove stressors from our lives. So it's vital that we are regulating our nervous systems daily. And while that may feel overwhelming, there are lots of ways to regulate your nervous system in 5 minutes or less. We talked about a few in the earlier segments. Having moments of calming the nervous system is key to your sanity during this transition back to school. So this could look like a peaceful morning routine or doing a 90-second reset between bus drop-off and starting work. Or you can try my 5-minute stress reset, which you can get in the show notes. So definitely lots of options there to regulate your nervous system, and definitely try one and let me know which one works for you, because we're all different. We all have different preferences. So I always love to hear from my listeners what's working for you. That's it for today's refill. If this episode gave you even one thing to try, do me a favor. Hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And if you've got 30 seconds, leave a quick review. It genuinely helps other exhausted moms find the show. Check out the show notes from today's episode for more resources. You can also find me on Instagram at Katie Cooper Wellness for more in-between episodes. Take care of you. I'll see you next time.